future Wildcats. My name is Chef Rosemary Keating, coming to you live with your daily JWoo Wildcat news. Today I'll be showing you how to prepare and slow roast some spare ribs in an oven. To get started, you'll need 1 rack of spare ribs. When planning for how many people to feed, I generally go with a 2 to 3 rib portion per person. So if you have a larger or extra hungry group, plan to prepare and cook 2 sets of ribs. You'll need 6 to 8 ounces of light brown sugar and your favorite rib rub. I personally use Western Sizzle's Gold Dust because it has a nice flavor profile to match with the brown sugar. You want to grab 16 ounces of hickory smoked barbecue sauce and 8 ounces of clover honey. I like to mix the honey with the barbecue sauce instead of buying a pre-made bottle so I can gauge the sweetness to my personal taste preference. For equipment, you'll need some tin foil. I went ahead and pre-measured out my pieces to wrap the rib portions later, a sauce brush and a whisk, a medium mixing bowl, a large pan big enough to hold all the ribs, a chef knife and a paring knife, and a large cutting board. Be sure to dampen a thin towel with cold water and lay it down evenly under the board. This will help your board have some grip and not to slide when cutting. Now, while preparing your ribs, go ahead and preheat your oven to 275 degrees Fahrenheit or 135 degrees Celsius. When using a convection oven, you want to decrease the temperature by 25 degrees. Or, if you have a newer convection oven, set it to the 275 degrees Fahrenheit because it will automatically adjust the difference. To begin prepping your ribs, you'll want to remove it from the packaging and rinse it with cold water, removing any excess blood. And then pat dry with paper towels. Then you're going to remove the membrane from the ribs. The membrane is a thin layer of skin between the raw bone and meat. Right here. This is the membrane. Removing the membrane is key to get a nice tender fall off the bone result in the ribs. To remove the membrane, all you need to do is take your paring knife and slide it under the membrane between the membrane and the bone, cutting it, and then you can be able to pull it away from the bone with your fingers. It can be a bit difficult to remove, so be sure to grab a kitchen towel, paper towel, to get a better grip to help you pull it away from the bone. Once you have removed the membrane, your ribs are going to look a little something like this. You're going to take your chef knife and cut your ribs into your portioned out pieces. I'm going to cut them to a 2 to 3 rib portion piece. Once your pieces are portioned out looking something like this, you're going to generously season both sides with some brown sugar and your favorite rib rub, rubbing the seasoning into the meat on both sides. Once you have generously seasoned all your rib portions, you're going to wrap with tin foil. Go ahead and cut the tin foil to about 1 foot in length, and this will make it much easier when wrapping your ribs. Once you have gotten all your pieces wrapped in tin foil, place them in the oven and bake for 3 to 4 hours or until they have reached the internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit or 63 degrees Celsius. Now, while our ribs cook, let's make our honey barbecue sauce. You're going to need your medium mixing bowl, your hickory smoked barbecue sauce, your honey, and your whisk. You're going to pour your hickory smoked barbecue sauce into your medium mixing bowl and then pour as much or as little honey as you want into the sauce, mixing it in thoroughly. I mix the sauce like this for 2 reasons. 1, I can gauge the sweetness to my personal taste preference, and 2, as you can see, it loosens the sauce up, allowing it to double it in size. Now, while the ribs cook, let's take a look where they came from. Where can you find spare ribs? Spare ribs, also known as side ribs, are located in the belly side of the rib cage in a pig, seen here in the diagram. Where did the original spare ribs come from? It started when Christopher Columbus had encountered the first indigenous tribes on the island he named Hispaniola, that is now known as Haiti in the Dominican Republic. The island is located just below the Florida Peninsula next to Central America and is between the Atlantic Ocean and Caribbean Sea. They had developed a unique method for cooking meat over an indirect flame. They created a method using green wood or fresh cut wood to keep the food and wood from burning. The Spanish referred to this new style of cooking as barbacoa, meaning the original barbecue. Where did the term spare ribs come from? The term spare ribs is a Middle English corruption of the term spare rib of rib spear, coming from a Low German term that referred to racks of meat being roasted over a turning spit. As for why pigs were originally used instead of cattle in the dish when it was first invented, it was because the pork supply in the South was cheap and easy to raise and required fewer resources than raising cattle. It's been about halfway in our cooking process. Now you're going to take your meat thermometer to check the temperature of the ribs to see where they're at. This way you can gauge how much more time the ribs need to cook to reach the 145 degrees Fahrenheit or 63 degrees Celsius that we're looking for. Now we're going to put the ribs back in the oven preheated to 500 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 to 5 minutes. This will help caramelize the sauce onto the ribs. To recap on everything, you want to remove the membrane from the ribs. This will result in the tender fall off the bone result we're looking for in the end. The roasting at a low temperature allows the meat to result in the same tender texture you would as if putting it in a smoker. Then the last high blast of heat caramelizes the sauce as if it was going on an open flame on a charcoal grill. Once the ribs are done, you can plate them with any side dish you want. As you can see here, I've prepared some homemade potato chips to go with the ribs. I'm Chef Rosemary Keating with your daily JWU Wildcat News. Until next time, stay true, stay you, Wildcats out.